4 out of 5 people could save on their car insurance by calling Hastings Direct. Why not see how much you could save? Don't pay too much for your insurance. Call Hastings Direct now. 0800 00 1066.
Rise to the tales from the crypts of Wales for the spookiest podcast, the wildly wicked, the dirty bastards this side of the Humber Bridge. I do declare this is the podcast for you. This is a reference to me swapping the intro last week and us doing Jack was meant. I can't be asked to explain it.
Last week,
actually, it wasn't last week because we're sticking in a different episode in between.
Oh god, it's all gone fucking.
You get it. It was a joke from 2 weeks ago, and if you don't get it, go back and get it. If you gotta know, now you know. Yeah. So there you go.
Like all the best jokes, they're from 2 weeks ago. The setup was 2 weeks ago, and the punchline is now. All right.
Yeah, like all good jokes, it's confusing. So just appreciate.
It's really difficult to get. Imagine someone just went like, "Oh, I saw a Reddit post or saw like something on Instagram." I was like, "I can give those guys a listen," and this is the first episode. Like, what the hell is this chaotic thing?
Even though I find the lunchtime ones not as fun, they're probably so much more easy to follow and coherent. Whereas the late night ones, we're Hollyoaks After Dark, we are so much more risque.
But that is how I want to live my life, is Hollyoaks After Dark. It's the fucking, the live EastEnders, mate. I like it all fucking raw and wriggling. Yeah.
Wriggling. No, wrigglers. Well, today's episode, we're going to have a right royal laugh, but it's not just about the history, is it, Jack? It's about friendship. So, talking of friendship, how bloody hell are you, mate? You're right. You got anything to tell us?
Mate. No, not really. Just been talking to you, mate, in the last thing. I do have something to talk about, nothing news or anything like that. Yeah. But I just had a strange thought I had. Nothing news,
Jack's new segment, I forgot to mention this. Thoughts I've had with me, Catch. Okay, welcome
Using
to
my brain.
Have you ever thought that it's funny that you run a bath, but you also run a marathon? What's much more relaxing to do? Do you know what I mean? That's quite a good radio joke.
That was all right. That wasn't too bad, actually. Yeah. So I'll give you a dealer's choice, right? We can either talk about, and basically it's a rant about a girl we knew from school's recent posts on her Instagram about Brit ID. You've probably seen them.
Brit ID?
Brit ID, or the new fucking ID card that fucking
Brit ID.
Brit ID.
Yeah.
Or we can talk about
something. I thought you were trying to say Chris IT, but you were saying it like a weird
Brit ID, like Chris IT,
pig Latin. You were not really saying it properly.
Ixnay on the Brit ID lay. But you can either have that, or you can have a thought I had recently about LL Cool J. Which would you like?
Well, I know what the baying mob want. What do you think about 90s sensation LL Cool J?
It's not so much about him, right? It's more. I had this strange thought. So LL Cool J. Our friend Andy told me, "Do you know what LL Cool J stands for?" And I was like, "I thought it was just like a cool name,
What's his initials? LL.
No. It apparently stands for Ladies Love Cool James.
Okay. No. That's a good way of making your shit name cool. Like if you're called Derek and you renamed yourself LLD.
Yeah. This is it. This is where my thought comes from, right? So I was thinking, imagine all those all the seminal
Can I just say,
from
if I was called
Derek,
I'd call myself BDD, and it stood for Big Dick Derek. Sorry, I had to say that.
Okay, I had to get that in there. If anyone was wondering what the thing, I cut you off, and they were going, "Hang on, Jack,"
because I realised I was saying I just gave the example of LL Cool J, which was just repeating LL Cool J's plan. I thought, no, I got to do it my own.
Ladies love Cool Derek. Ladies love Cool Derek.
Yeah.
But I thought, all the big time writers, the classic writers, what would we come up with for their names? So J.R.R. Tolkien, what was his? What's that for?
Johnny's Jocks rub Rogers Tolkien.
Jocks really rate Tolkien. He was gay. He was a homosexual, apparently. Yeah. Who knows?
Jiggling, robust, rasclad Tolkien.
Rasclad Tolkien.
Jiggling, rusty, rasclad Tolkien.
I sort of this thought, grew like a seed, Inception style, and I was like, C.S. Lewis, George R.R. Martin, J.K. Rowling. Yeah. We can probably think of a funny one for J.K. Rowling that paints her as the bigot that she is. And then there's J.D. Salinger. Like, wait, what can we
J.K. Rowling. I'm really trans. Just kidding, Rowling.
Just kidding, Rowling. Yeah.
Everything she says is ironic. She's like, "Oh yeah, I really hate trans," but she's just being ironic. She's like she's drenched in millennial irony. So she's everything she says taken with a pinch of salt.
Imagine if she turned around and that was the thing as well. She went like, "It's all been a front. It was all ironic."
C.S. Lewis, wasn't he like a bit of a paedophile? So we could call him.
I have no idea, mate. No
idea. Child sniffer Lewis.
Child sniffer Lewis. Imagine these are unfounded claims. Someone's favourite fucking author is C.S. Lewis. Like, Child sniffer Lewis.
Well, I'm pretty sure he was. That's what the whole eat me, drink me stuff comes from. For Lily Allen. What's her name? Alice in Wonderland.
Lily Allen.
Yeah, I got the Alice in Wonderland.
Remember when C.S. Lewis and Lily Allen were going out? Fucking crazy times. George R.R. Martin. If you're still awaiting the latest one, Winds of Winter, George really rubbish Martin. Am I right, guys?
That's great. Is it J.R.R. Martin? Is that his name? Or George?
No, George R.R. Martin.
What was the guy who did the zombie films? George R.R. Romero.
George A. Romero.
Oh yeah, all right. It doesn't really work. It's too much of a. Well, I get your point. It was really, good. It was a good riff.
Good thought, wasn't it?
Yeah, good thought. Well played. So I reckon we move on. Shall we?
I felt that worth noting down.
It was worth noting. It was good to hear your thoughts on LL Cool J. Was he the guy who was
to my original thought as well, if you want? We can
no. I don't want to. I don't want to go into political stuff because last time we veered on political on the spooky episode, and I think it's probably nice for everyone to have a bit of a breather from anything political.
But you don't understand. I get a real kick out of calling people dummies. So,
Also, wasn't LL Cool J the chef who is in Deep Blue Sea?
Yes, of Deep Blue Sea alumni. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson's also in that as well. Samuel Loser Jackson. Is that
Loser Jackson? Yeah. I mean. There's a lot of things you could call Samuel Jackson, but Loser, I don't know.
He's actually cool as fuck. He's so cool. He's like famously cool. Yeah, all right. It was ironic. He was doing a fucking millennial irony.
Samuel loves Jackson.
Yeah, I know. What you need a few more initials, don't you? Not just the one initial.
Yeah, the one doesn't do it. LL Cool J had the right thing by chucking 3 initials in.
I reckon I got quite a long episode anyway, so. I think
we should get into it, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, talking of, let me think how I segue to this. Speaking of, what was it again? Ladies just love LL.
Ladies love Cool James.
LL. Okay. So ladies might love Cool James, but what did Wales love about Cool Q? So. In today's episode, we're discussing the relationship between Cymru and Wlliiam the Conqueror. So, let me just tell you why. So, yes, like I mentioned, I thought I've deleted some stuff here. No, actually, this is just to show that I've actually done real research. I've noted the places I've read some of my bits from today because I sometimes think we do ourselves a discredit by being like, oh, we're such idiots, but like we really deeply care about Welsh history, so we do actually put the effort, and we do actually put the effort. Yes. Like I've said this 100 times. I read more books now than what I did when I studied literal literature at uni. I studied English literature and international politics, and I did fuck all reading, and now I read books all the time for this nonsense. But today's...
If you think we're just coming in ill-prepared every episode, you've fallen from the jester's facade, I'm afraid.
So I do think it helps.
Quite the scribes.
If we were to note what some bits we read from. So I read from the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle MSD, parts of the Brutotoasogon, and then extracts from John of Worcester and Wlliiam of Malmesbury and Florence of Worcester's, some of their biographies.
Is this what we have to do now? Is that we're going to have to find references for our
quote-unquote
research, quote-unquote knowledge?
I've done it before, I think, in the past. And when I did it, I felt such a deep sense of smugness that I think we should do it all the time. It really does help you feel part of the gang.
Yeah, I'm not making this shit up. Yeah.
So this will come out, I reckon, in a couple of weeks' time. But back when I came up with the notes, it was around October 14th, which is the 990...
around a specific date, October 14th.
I think it must have been because I saw someone post on October 14th, which I'll tell you why that's important in a second. And I thought, right, let's do an episode on that. But obviously we don't record and release within the same week. So when I saw this, it was roughly around circa October 14th, which was the 959th anniversary of a little scrap I like to call the Battle of Hastings. Hastings.
That was your absolute moment to frame your bit. Yeah, Hastings.
0800 00 1066.
Call Hastings.
Call Hastings Direct. Sorry, that's an earworm that you will never be able to shake if you grew up in the noughties and had access to telly, because that advert was on all the time. 0800 00 1066.
1066. Yeah, I remember that bad boy.
But yes. It was the big bad Battle of Hastings when England was conquered by the Normans and the dream of a Saxon king was dead, and Harold
not nice, is it, England?
Bread.
Not nice.
Well, that's kind of why I've written that, because I don't like it when English people think they conquered Wales. It's like, well, you were conquered by the French, you were conquered by the Normans, and then the Normans subsequently...
Let's just circle back a minute, a couple of years, 1066, am I right?
I will occasionally drop in the old "a dream of a Saxon king is dead," no matter what the fucking reform wants. They are dead. And Harold Godwinson with brown bread.
Dream of England is dead.
Yeah, you can have this fake facade of England is.
This mongrel country you've cobbled together. Fine.
Yeah. But that is not what Harold Godwinson of
That's
Wessex
not what Alfred
wanted.
the Great dreamed of.
No. Anyway, let me read some of these notes. They've got quite a big one here. Let me just get some of the sense of this. That's me trying to find where I was on the page. Right. But what I hear you cry, does all this nonsense in England have to do with Cymru? Well, I thought it'd be prudent. This is such mad writing. Look at this sentence.
You're like someone bipolar who's written this when they're manic. You know?
Well, I did write this. I think I wrote this last week, but this is a mad sentence. I thought it might be prudent to take a little goosey gander at the relationship between old Daddy Harold Godwinson and Wales, and I also thought it'd be good to look at how William the Conqueror viewed Wales, and what was happening during the Anglo-Saxon capitulation at Hastings. So, what happened? What was it like in the build-up to 1066, the Battle of Hastings, and what happened afterwards? So I've done a little...
We all know 1066, but what was going on across the border in Cymru? What were they doing? What's happening? Yeah. I like it.
Shut up, I will tell you. So, first... how did Harold Godwinson treat and view Wales? So there's a new film, TV series on BBC, which is all about 1066. I think it's called Harold and Wlliiam or something like that. Let me actually Google that quickly.
Are you getting confused with Owain and Henry? And this is called something I know what you mean, the BBC thing. I'm sure that's called something a bit more generic-y.
It's called King and Conqueror.
King and Conqueror, there you go.
And it's been lambasted a little bit, but I actually found it enjoyable, and it's got a good cast in there. It's got the guy from Game of Thrones. Jack, help me out.
Oh, Nikolai Coster-Waldau.
Yes, and who's he in Game of Thrones?
Jamie Lannister, he plays. Yeah. He's very good.
It got a bit slammed because it has the Mercians as some black guys, and people obviously lost their mind. Oh, it's so woke. It's fuck off, it's just actors. Don't be so stressed. And the reason they're black is to show that they're different from Wessex. It's they're culturally and different from the south of England. So I get why that was done as a trope.
artistic
visual
device to just show,
device.
Here we go. You know, if they're fighting, you're not going who's hitting who, and blah blah blah. And also, if you want to watch something historically accurate, watch a fucking documentary.
I know,
like that, you know
so,
what I mean?
and also the rest of it
a bit
is
of fiction.
The rest of it is wildly fictitious, but it's great. It's really fun. It's a good story. I actually really enjoyed it, and it's 6-parter. It's on iPlayer. They have a great big because I was worried they wouldn't have a battle at the end because it's like sometimes you can't afford to do that, but you're guaranteed a battle at the end. There's fights in between, and the fighting is pretty fucking gruesome and full on, but it's really good, and it shows.
I remember early series of Last Kingdom because that was BBC, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Before
BBC
it got taken
America
over by Netflix, and even that was it was the few and far between were like the scuffles, but when they were doing it, it was gruesome. I remember us both saying, "Oh, it's gory."
It is gory.
Good.
Remember in like Game of Thrones where they didn't have the budget, so they just had Tyrion Lannister get knocked out before the fight happened, so you didn't actually see what happened.
Season 1, that was it.
But yes, so let me just get comfy. I really enjoyed 1066, but I had no idea what the Welsh relationship was like. And obviously Wales and England and the Anglo-Saxons had been warring for 400 years, for even longer. When did the Romans left the 400s, didn't they?
Before 400 or something like that.
And then you had like a time before the Anglos, the Jutes, and the Saxons all arrived, and we've been fighting ever since. So I was like, what was the relationship here? So I'll give you a bit of a potted history. This is quite a heavily researched one, but hopefully it's like digestible and enjoyable. So background, in the years before 1066, the Welsh, their experience with Harold Godwinson was like purely a military significance, was militarily significant. It was brutal. There was a lot of fighting, but I'll get to that because Harold Godwinson wasn't the King of England, or there wasn't a King of England. They had Wessex, they had Mercia, they had
Northumbria, all that rubbish.
Yeah. But Harold Godwinson and the Godwins were the most powerful family in Wessex. But there was a king, there was an English king who ruled over the other three, who was Edward the Confessor. But you still had these like dynastic kingdoms within. But I'll get to all that in a second, so just bear with. So 1066, let's go back from there. Let's go back 16 years, 1050. And we got Griffith ap Llywelyn, who was the king of Gwynedd and Powys. He'd risen to power and he united most of Wales under his rule. Later, he'll go on to rule all of Wales, which is something no Welsh leader had ever achieved before or after. So people had come close. You had lots of rulers who came very close. Even Glyndŵr didn't control all of it. There were still castles and pockets of resistance. Llywelyn the Great, the same. Llywelyn ein Llyolaf and Llywelyn Fawr. Similarly, they controlled most, but not all. But he controlled all of Wales. So he's in that sense, he was the most impressive and successful ruler we ever saw, and that's Griffith ap Llywelyn. And Griffith, during this, so he's on his rise during this period, right? So 1050s, and he took advantage of English political instability, which was because the Godwin family, who I mentioned a second ago, which is where Harold Godwinson comes from. Harold Godwinson, meaning Harold, son of Godwin. They had this big power struggle with King Edward the Confessor. So King Edward the Confessor was the king of England. But within England, it still had these dynastic areas which had their own rulers, and the Godwins were the most powerful in within England, but
family with a lot of sway.
Yeah, huge sway. So it's like he was a king, sure, but and also the king was situated in the south, which is where the Godwins and his family were situated. So the king had a direct opposition with an incredibly powerful baron family. So whilst he exiled this incredibly rich and powerful person to France, Griffith started taking advantage of the infighting, and he began to raid across the border, especially into Herefordshire and the English border towns. These raids and political interference made Griffith a direct threat to English security and the influence of the Earl of Hereford, which was a really important role within England because it was on the border and it held a lot. It was a market town. It's a lot of importance for trade and all this stuff. So with Harold Godwinson and his family out of the way, they gave it to Ralph of Mantes, who was Edward the Confessor's Norman nephew. And he's a really interesting figure because Ralph sits at this crossroads of Anglo-Norman and French royal politics because he is the before and after of Norman conquest. He was a Norman, but he was in charge before the conquest, and then afterwards he's still around when everything else falls apart. So he's also the nephew of Edward the Confessor, who's the current King of England, and his father is a count in France. So his mother is the sister of Edward the Confessor.
Fingers in many parties. Yeah.
He's a genuine Norman Anglo crossover. Anyway, as his time's like really important because the role of Earl of Hereford is a really, really important role. Well paying, hugely well paying, but also it comes with a lot of responsibility. You got to keep the Welsh out, which is no easy feat. And there was this one great battle that I'd like to talk about. So, as I mentioned, the Godwin family, they've been exiled, and amongst the chaos and instability of Edward the Confessor's rule, he appointed this little tit, Ralph, as the stalwart to defend this vicious and constantly under attack border.
Little tit.
He's a right little tit. In comparison, Griffith ap Llywelyn, who's the ruler of Gwynedd and Powys at this moment, he's on the rise fast to becoming his ultimate form. He defeated most of his rival Welsh princes, and he was now beginning to actually cross the border and raid into England, which is not something that's been done in a long time. So by late October 1055, Griffith allied with Aelfgar, the exiled English East Earl of Anglia. So the English Earl of East Anglia, who was son of Leofric of Mercia. Aelfgar had been stripped of his title by Edward the Confessor and fled to Wales for help, which is quite rare because it wasn't always the case.
Bone to pick then as well. Yeah.
So Griffith said, yes, absolutely, I'll provide this help. And they made a joint Welsh-English rebel army. And apparently it was several thousand strong.
Pigs can fly, am I right?
Yeah. So a Welsh and English army joined forces, and it was deep. It was it was several thousand strong. And together, so Griffith and Aelfgar invaded Herefordshire and then marched to Hereford town, which was the jewel in the crown for Herefordshire, which was defended by Earl Ralph's forces. So this was this young nephew I'm on about now. And this Ralph, his troops included the local English feudmen, who were like the local levies who were called up to fight in times of need, and every noble would have access to, or every ruler of a certain area would have a certain amount of feudmen within their ranks. For example, if
and they like
peasant soldiers,
just basically, we always make these references, but in medieval Total War 2, they're your fucking militia, aren't they? The guys with fucking no real training or anything like that, just guys with spears and pikes.
They have to
and whatever,
they have to like put them into perspective. They have to not be part of the army during the harvest season. So if there was a harvest season, they get allowed to go home and tend the harvest, because otherwise he would feed the rest of the country. But they are like very primary soldiers in the sense that they don't have, as in like infant, they don't have a huge amount of.
They fodder, and they bulk up the numbers of the army.
But also, they were a big part of prior to Norman invasion. They were a huge part of English and Welsh wars, especially within England. The feudesmen were those who fought against the Vikings. They were the peasants who did actually defend the land, and they fought because it was their country. So there was a kind of sense of, no, this is my town.
Yeah, there's an honour in that as well, isn't there? Yeah. Definitely.
But then to mix with this, so Ralph's forces were made of these English feudesmen, but then also Norman knights, who are the opposite. The Norman knights are well-trained soldiers.
Armoured.
But Ralph himself was hugely inexperienced as a commander and kind of put into this important position due to nepotism. So
I was about to say, medieval nepo baby.
Then contemporary sources like the book I mentioned, so that the manuscript D, this Anglo-Saxon chronicle, he described Ralph's army as unready and poorly coordinated. And Ralph tried to form his men in this continental Norman cavalry formation, which is nothing like the traditional English shield wall. And it was this tactical disaster because he was trying to fight like how the French are fighting in France, but he was up against a Anglo-Cymru contingent, so it was a complete disaster. Griffith and Aelfgar's combined forces smashed the English line, and Ralph reportedly fled the field first, the first one to run away, which earned him the mocking nickname Ralph the Timid, and that's how he's been known throughout history. I know, sucks to be known as him.
In the history books, Ralph the Timid. I bet that got you zero pussy back in the day.
And then the invaders they sacked and burnt all of Hereford. They destroyed the cathedral. They killed most of the inhabitants, and they carried off everything of worth. And it was a rich town. So the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle says they slew many of the citizens and the priests, and they burnt the cathedral, of which Bishop Ethelstan himself had built, with all his ornaments and all the relics of St. Ethelbert. And it was a big devastating humiliation for the English and Edward's Norman protege. So like I said, this Ralph guy is a Anglo-Norman protege. It fucked up his reputation. Yeah. And it was the first time in decades a Welsh army had successfully invaded and burnt down an entire major English town. So Ralph was defeated, and it was a huge embarrassment for the English crown. And Griffith pulled off this huge victory that brought him riches because he just took all the spoils. Because he was like, "Well, yes, we fought together,
but very much.
I'm the one who helped you do this and help you bring back some respect." So he took most of the riches. And this is the same year he then became king of all of Wales. So it was a real high watermark. But in doing so, it was a real sign for Edward the Confessor to be like, fuck, this guy I can't have a Welsh king next to me. He's legit. Yeah. So after 1055, Harold Godwinson, who was still really popular in England, but he was currently in exile, he was brought back from exile and was now the most powerful English noble of everyone else in England. And the king put him personally in charge of defending the Welsh border and suppressing Griffiths. So Harold's early foray, I say early foray, it's 6 years, it's over half a decade. It's 1056 to 1062. He couldn't best Griffiths. He couldn't get a better way. He failed to make any significant wins or get any big scalps. He was struggling to kind of feel like, how do you deal with someone like the King of Wales? But Godwinson, he was like this master general, and after a while of considering different strategies, he thought, right, I'm going to combine my strategic forces, my political alliances, and my political nous, and then attrition as well, rather than large scale conquest to get to Griffiths. So he was like, right, I won't face him just in open battle. I'm going to do conquer parts of his land. I'm going to join up forces of people and then use my dirty old nous and my strategy, which other opponents Griffiths had were nothing to compare to Godwinson. So Godwinson built alliances with the Welsh princes who were usurped by Griffiths. So especially someone called Wlliiam and Rhiallan ap Cynfyn of Powys, who they were his half brothers, I believe, due to his having the same mum but different dad. So it wasn't. All right. And I'm going to do full research on them because they sound really interesting. Well, I'll tell you a bit more about that in a bit. But either way, they both had these huge rivalries with Griffiths. So Harold used them against him, and he sort of alienated Griffiths from other Welsh nobility. Harold also used the English navy to raid the Welsh coastline. He cut off Griffith's coastal strongholds and all the supply routes. And as we know, Wales has never had a strong navy presence whatsoever. So no, they were beaten by sea. And then by 1062, Harold launched a two-pronged assault, one with an entire army from the sea, and then one overland from Hereford going up north, which was a coordinated strike, unprecedented for the time in that region. Because what was so magnificent about it was he led it during winter, and invading North Wales in midwinter was people just didn't do it. I was going to say that's it's almost like a. Why would you do it? Yeah. It's almost begging for defeat, isn't it? Because the elements are probably going to fuck you. He also sailed. He also had an army coming from sea during winter. So he had he took a risk and he attacked overland and from the sea with two big armies fed for by the English crown. It was this brutal choice of timing meant the Welsh defenders were completely unprepared, which caused Griffith to fled his court at Rhuddlan, which Harold burnt to the ground. Harold, who was incredibly brutal as well, he was renowned for being really vicious, often in the front line of fighting, but also not taking prisoners well and stuff. And he gave direct orders to kill as many Welsh males as possible, no matter the age. So he killed as many Welsh people as he possibly could to stop any kind of retaliation. Oh, wow. And so whilst Griffiths was fleeing from Rhuddlan, he escaped by sea. Then Harold's fleet, which was sailing along the coast, stopping anything, blocked all the escape routes. So Griffith did manage to get out to sea, but one of his ships, they sailed off with a couple of ships. Some of them were sunk, and he had to come back in and take refuge and harboured into that place many Welsh rebels have harboured, Eryri, Snowdonia. So he hid in the mountains of Snowdonia to try and avoid, because he couldn't fight on land anymore, and he couldn't fight at sea. He had to just go to the mountains, which has been a refuge for many a Welsh prince. But by August 1063, Griffiths ended up being betrayed and killed by his own men, most likely those who had like familial ties to the land back when it was split into like dynastic areas like Gwynedd and Deheubarth. But now it's all under one rule. Those who realised the way the tide was turning, he made a lot of enemies in becoming sole ruler of Wales, and they ended up killing him under the directions of Harold Godwinson.
Bastard.
And then his head and ship's figurehead were sent to Harold as trophies, and chroniclers say that Harold took them to King Edward, who rewarded Harold lavishly. Griffith's death was the first and only united Welsh kingship. Wales was fractured again into Gwynedd, Powys, and Deheubarth, and they, and all the other ones. And they then went back under local rulers who owed tribute and allegiance to Harold and Edward. So Harold didn't annex Wales, even though his doing was kind of the end of Griffiths. But instead, he installed friendly rulers like that Bleddyn ap Cynfyn in Gwynedd and Powys and stuff, because they accepted an English
puppet sort of rulers and whatever.
Yeah. And also that they accepted English overlordship, so like it was less of an issue. And throughout this time, they knew the Normans were kind of close by, and there was still Viking risk of Vikings during this period. So there was a lot going on. So the English were like, right, as long as we have people who are there who we trust.
It's a lot on your plate, isn't there?
Yeah,
like so much going on.
So to lots of Griffith's followers, Harold was this destroyer of Welsh unity, this foreign noble who shattered their dream of a single Welsh kingdom. But then to other Welsh princes, like people like Bleddyn and Rhiwallon, Harold was a useful ally and this power broker who gave them legitimacy. So in short, many Welsh leaders saw Harold was simultaneously a dangerous adversary because he removed his powerful Welsh king, but also like a political actor for whom it would be like possible to negotiate with. So like he was a dangerous person, but an important person and someone they should work with. This view helps.
It was probably like a thing of at the time, like the whole political landscape is like do you do the big moves and like sort of try and make yourself a bit bigger in the playing field, but then you get noticed by an even bigger dog sort of thing, and you're going to get taken out, or do you play along for a bit and just keep you and yours like sort of going?
But so anyway, this view of like of who is this person, how much should we trust him, who will eventually become king of England, because when Edward the Confessor goes, Harold Godwinson becomes king. This view explains like why the Welsh didn't form like a united front at Hastings. Like they let what happened at Hastings play out without coming to intercede. So that actually a lot of people in
you don't want to
England
back the wrong horse, do you?
So they left the horses to fight it out themselves, and that's what a lot of like Mercia, other English kingdoms did the same. So they didn't all come down to. It wasn't like it was all of England versus.
That's crazy. Really, did Mercia just like sort of take a step back and go, "Let's see how this goes"? Like,
there's a debate around why, because some said that Edwin of Mercia and Morcar of Northumbria had agreed to come and support him, especially Morcar, because I think he was marrying into the family. That they said to Harold Godwinson, we'll be there with Wessex, we'll be down there to fight alongside you. But they didn't turn up. But also, remembering just before, like literally just before the Battle of Hastings, Harold Godwinson marched his entire army from the south of England to the north to fight at the Battle of Stamford Bridge to kill and defeat the Vikings for the very last time, where they killed Harold Hardrada.
I see, yeah.
So he and I do think
remember Godwinson. He kind of got a bit of a bum deal, didn't he? Because he was running.
And it was his brother who turned against him. His brother, his brother joined up with Harold Hardrada to. I can't remember his name. Something Godwinson. He brought in that army from because I think Harold and his brother fell out, and his brother went to find the Vikings and say, "Quick, come get him now." But I do think maybe the Mercians or the Northumbrians helped at the battle of Stamford Bridge against the Vikings. But this isn't in my notes; it's just off the cuff, so I'll check that.
And then what? Maybe took a step back when for the Yeah,
especially because the
And the
Normans
Conqueror
were
was
much
coming
more.
over.
The Normans were a lot more palatable than the Vikings to kind of negotiate with. So there could be the discussion of right, maybe the Normans we can actually have a conversation with about stuff.
Yeah.
But
Well, they were Vikings with a few hundred years of like French tinge on them, weren't they?
Yeah, we're the noble Vikings. But so, like I said, the Welsh didn't go to join anybody at Stamford at the Battle of Hastings. But after the conquest, they did actually join forces. So some of the Welsh nobility joined forces with the likes of Edwin of Mercia and Morcar of Northumbria to fight against the Normans later on. So after 1066, after the defeat of Wessex, the other remaining factions of England did actually sometimes go into battle against the Normans. So at one point they all attacked Hereford again. Hereford got done. But
poor Hereford.
Yeah. By this time, William the Conqueror managed to bring more of his forces together, and the rest of England and then Welsh nobility submitted to the Normans without having to have another big battle. And we will do a whole episode on the rise of Griffith because he is the only Welsh king to control all of Wales, so he's really important. But this is just I want to do like background and like the key parts to discuss.
Yeah, like a nutshell.
Because this is the 959th year of the Battle of 1066. So the very last bit I want to talk about then is William the Conqueror. So we've learned about what happened up to 1066, but what happened to Wales after there? So that's the end of Saxon rule. England, as we know it, is over. Now it's controlled by the French, the Normans. I bet you the English hate here.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we do have any English listeners, but, I mean, would we have like some really die-hard, like fucking...
Well, we do. Like, we have English listeners for
flag
sure.
shaggers on here.
Yeah,
Probably
don't think we'd have any like mad... Yeah. Because I know we've had some messages, some funny English listeners who are like, I love hearing the Welsh get pissed off about it, but in a very tongue-in-cheek way. They're quite, very fun way. Anyway, so William the Conqueror's immediate priority after Hastings wasn't about Wales. It was to secure and consolidate England. He was not able to launch like a full-scale invasion of Wales or anything like that, so he wasn't focused on that. But in 1066, 1067, he had to first subdue the ongoing English resistance and protecting his continental possessions. But he always knew that Wales was extremely strategically important, so because it formed like this natural western buffer against any Irish threat. Plus, control over the Welsh marshes meant securing England borders and preventing a Welsh support for any English rebels. So he had to make sure the borders were secure. Wales could get like pushed further into. So if there was any English nobility up to rebellion, they couldn't find help in Wales. So William treated Wales as a zone of indirect control and strategic buffer rather than like an immediate conquest target. So he like tolerated and negotiated with or sometimes punished Welsh rulers depending on circumstance. But he left like day-to-day pressure on Wales to his Norman followers rather than like reserving the right of overlordship completely.
Probably a smart move.
Yeah,
because,
well, I mean, he's the smartest.
Full on conqueror is like, that's how you get a Welsh rebellion, isn't it? As the tale is always time.
Well, I'll talk about in this bit now. I'm going to talk about what it was like under William the Conqueror, and then I'll discuss what it was like after him. Because like he was so clever at making sure it wasn't like a full-on invasion. Because like that there, because they didn't listen to that, you have 200 years of constant war. So yes, the Norman advancement. So rather than a single royal campaign into Wales, William and his regime encouraged and relied on the martial lords. So they're Norman magnates based along the Welsh border who had autonomy, and their role was to slowly push into Welsh territory. So the Norman advance into Wales was therefore like a gradual and local. They really emphasised castle building, land grabs, and creation of powerful border earldoms, such as Roger de Mortimer, who was Earl of Shrewsbury, Hugh de Avranches, Earl of Chester, and William Fitz-Osbern, Earl of Hereford. They were so he set up these important, powerful people, gave them lots of money and autonomy, but their role was to build Tommen and Bailey's castles, land grab, and like
slowly edging,
push in.
Castle, that's a Norman castle.
Well, it was originally a Roman one, but on. But when necessary, William did intervene or authorise interventions. But the pattern after 1066 by him was like piecemeal. So it was like piecemeal Norman penetration, which sounds like my love movie. It was so, like I said, Moat and Bailey castles on the marshes, settlements by Norman knights, intermittent punitive expeditions rather than like a single decisive one. And like 1060s and like Battle of Hastings. So that slowed local pressure, eventually eroded Welsh independence in most of the Welsh border regions over the next decade. So this was going on for 10 years. We were slowly pushing down places like Gwent, parts of Powys, and all these border towns.
It's easier to kind of hide under 100 smaller incursions than one huge atrocity, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, so death by 1,000 cuts kind of vibe. And obviously after his reign that completely changed, and battle continued then from after he died so after William the Conqueror's reign up until Edward Longshanks, there was 200 years of just constant battles because they changed tactics. It then became heavy-handed. The Welsh really rose up. There was battles constantly, and you could say Edward Longshanks, he's a direct descendant of William the Conqueror. So this is after he died, it just all fell apart, and Wales became the dragon it was, and all that malarkey. And even after Edward Longshanks, there was still up until.
So Longshanks was actually a French king. Is that what you said?
Yeah, he is. I think he's still a part. He's a part of the Plantagenet thingy, but he is a direct descendant of William the Conqueror. And I actually think I've got some notes on that later on. He's a part of the generation that changed from being Norman to Plantagenet, but he would be classed as a Norman ruler because he has a direct bloodline to William the Conqueror.
It's so mad because I always thought across the border was England. It's actually France. That's mad. Absolute chuck that bait out there. Chum.
It's mad that actually Edward Longshanks wasn't an English conqueror. He was a Frenchman doing the French's bidding.
It's weird. Yeah,
but like I said, they'd all speak French. They Edward Longshanks, they'd all be speaking French.
What did we speak in Wales at that time?
Well, that's what we spoke
French.
Was it English,
or was it Siarad Cymraeg? Yeah. Oh, it seems we are the natives of this land, for God's sake.
But yeah, in around 1081, 1082, old Wlliiam himself, William the Conqueror, did head into Wales. He went as far west as St. David's. And it's quite an interesting reason. It's not just one sole purpose, but he had 3 reasons. So one, firstly, assert Norman authority over Deheubarth, which had military campaigns going on. Deheubarth, farthest kingdom in West Wales, a real seat of power. We've had some of the best rulers ever from there. You had Hywel there. You've had Lord Rhys. It's been a real an important part of Welsh independence for hundreds and thousands of years. Then the second one was to demonstrate piety and legitimacy, because he attended St. David's Cathedral for local ceremonial customs.
What was that? It was 4 of those meant a trip to Rome or something like that.
Yeah. So if you went on a pilgrimage 4 times to St. David's, it was equivalent of doing a pilgrimage to the Catholic Church in Rome. But he was just doing it more to show that he was not like a foreign invader. He was of the same creed and religion of those who lived there. So it was a chance to demonstrate piety. And then a third one was to send a clear political message to Welsh rulers that any rebellion would be punished, because there had been this coalition of Welsh leaders who were on the rise. So William brought a fully strengthened Norman army to suppress it, but he didn't actually need to go to war. He opted for diplomacy rather than annexation. So he met with the ruler and other rulers, but he met specifically with Rhys ap Tewdwr, or Tewdwr. It's spelled like fat water, Tewdwr, but Tewdwr, as you say it. He was so Lord Rhys was a descendant from Rhys Tewdwr, and Rhys Tewdwr was the last independent king of Deheubarth until Lord Rhys came back. And that was because William the Conqueror came to an agreement with Rhys, who said he could stay in absolute power, but he had to subdue any local rebellions, and he wasn't allowed to overthrow the lordship, and effectively he acknowledged William as the overlord. So he retained internal autonomy whilst pledging tribute of symbolic submission to a foreign king. And this was negotiated with a political encounter rather than a full conquest. So that was some of the reasons. There was also a symbolic action. Wlliiam apparently walked barefoot to St. David's Cathedral following a Welsh ceremonial ritual. So he was showing humility whilst asserting authority. And everything you read about William the Conqueror, I'm like, this dude rules. He's he plays the game so well. He takes his armor off. He walks barefoot. He walks all the way to the cathedral. He just knows
how to do what needs to be done to
exactly. You think how different Wales is.
It's not going to part. Yeah,
Wales is so different fundamentally to what England was next door, because we are far more ritualistic as well. and it's like a real understanding of how you can conquer a nation without just bringing the sword. Obviously, he's a bad person in terms of if you believe in it.
There's obviously always the threat of the sword. That's always there. But
so he set like. So in doing so, the outcome of this visit, it reinforced Norman influence in southwest Wales, and it set a model for Norman control via tribute and alliances and ceremonial recognition rather than direct annexation. So he was like relying on there to be a show of force, but he would do it by setting up political allegiances and stuff. So it left Deheubarth semi-independent, but under Norman scrutiny until Lord Rhys died. Until Rhys died in 1093, and then after that, shit hit the pot, and there was the wars that were to follow for literally 200 years. After William the Conqueror's death in 1087, Wales remained politically fragmented but resilient, so the Normans continued to push the border regions, establishing martial lordships and building moat and bailey castles, Thomond and Bailey castles, particularly in southern and eastern parts of like Pembrokeshire, Gwent and Glamorgan. However, once William the Conqueror died and the brutality of the Normans shifted, native Welsh princes, especially in North and Mid Wales, they mounted sustained resistance and using guerrilla tactics and alliances and stuff, and they defended their territories, which, we spoke about in this podcast.
Well, that's like times. A period of history we've covered quite extensively.
Exactly.
Many rebellions.
We don't often cover this period, do we? We often follow what happened after.
This is the calm before the storm.
Yeah, this is the prequel, isn't it? It's like the prequel of what we cover a lot. So while Norman law, administration and fortification began like influencing the border regions, Welsh cultural and legal traditions like largely persisted in land. So after the death of William the Conqueror, Wales kind of went back to being how it was before him. So he was like so influential, he stopped Wales in its tracks for a while, which no one else had been able to do. This period then, after his death, this period it became real contested expansion, and local resistance set the siege for resurgence of Welsh rulers like Griffith ap Cynan, Llywelyn Llywolaf, Llywelyn Fawr, all that stuff, Lord Rhys, all that stuff. It shaped this ongoing power struggle between the martial lords and the Welsh princes throughout the entire 12th and 13th century, and you could arguably say for longer, but this is with direct Normans. This is like a direct conflict with Normans and the Plantagenets. That is a before and after of 1066.
Mate, that was class. I hope you enjoyed. That was so good.
It's nice doing these episodes, isn't it? Especially the more thorough ones, occasionally dipping back into our bread and butter.
Mate, that was so good because it is like a blind spot almost in the history books. In that, I certainly didn't know anything about it, and it's also something we haven't even covered.
No, I know, yeah. So I hope people enjoyed it. I'm desperate for a wee now. If you got this far, please do drop us a review and Patreon, all that malarkey.
Yes,
we didn't do Patreon.
Thank you.
I gotta go. I'm about to burst. I love you.
All right.